What's going on, guys? It is me, Tyson the Trainer, back with another episode for you. Now, today I want to be talking to you about, I had a mind blank for a second, talk about rates of weight loss for athletes. Because one thing that athletes can do very well is expend a lot of energy based on the sport you are doing. If you are doing something that's very high demanding and endurance, and you're training for hours a day, you're going to be able to burn a lot of calories, which is a good and a bad thing. Good thing means you get to eat more food, means you get to have more fuel in your body, easy way to get all your nutrients in because you are just someone who requires a high caloric demand, and with those extra calories always comes nutrients from trace minerals, trace vitamins, all those type of things too. But in saying that, having such a high calorie demand also can allow you to build up a negative energy balance or energy availability more so, and then also with that can cause some metabolic issues, can cause some health issues and things like that, which you want to avoid. So basically, I've talked to you guys about making some changes if you're coming to preseason, how you can be going along with that, how you don't have to track your food in order to be able to achieve your deficit, which is absolutely fine. But in saying that, we do not want you losing weight too fast either, because the goal for you, like I always say, is performance first. Even if it is a weight class sport, there's no point trying to get to that weight as fast as possible if it's going to negatively impact your performance. And that ranges from everything, even in powerlifting, which I always don't say. I always say, powerlifting, it's not such an athletic sport, but people like that, or fighting sports, when you've got a weight cut, do you want your performance to fucking suffer? Because people just think, oh, I go in the sauna, I sweat it out, I do all these things, and I'm not a big fan of that. As much as water cutting can have a place, I would much rather people be their weight earlier in order to maintain their weight and then be able to walk into their weight comfortably, their weight class and their fight comfortably. But also in saying that, I'd rather them lose weight so they're not actually losing muscle mass or causing any damage to themselves or performance-wise, right? And when I say muscle, the funny thing is, people think, oh, because I'm technically gym first and then obviously boxing second, I always talk about muscle, but it's like muscle has such an important role in the body and function. And if you want to perform at your best as an athlete, it's actually beneficial to have more muscle mass and less. Why the fuck would we want to lose muscle? We don't, right? So I'm saying that when it comes to deficiting, your goal as an athlete should be to lose no more than 0.75% of your body weight a week. Now it's funny because we have a general recommendation of about 0.5 to 1% of your body weight a week. The reason I don't use the upper limit of 1% of your body weight a week is because if you are someone who is leaner, which is usually athletes for the most part, you have a higher chance of losing muscle mass the more aggressive your deficit is. So we want to put it on that less aggressive part. And even if you can happily, go between 0.5 to 0.75 or even just, ticking along at 0.5, that's actually a good thing. People don't realize that it may be slow, but slow is the way to go, So it may take you longer and it may be slower overall, but it's worth its weight in gold, especially for your performance. So when saying that, if we think about half your percent of body weight a week, pardon me, what does that look like? I just coughed in the mic, so that'd probably be quite loud. What does that look like? Well, if you're 80 kilos, half percent is 400 grams, 0.75% is 600 grams total. And you're like, wow, that doesn't seem like anything. No, it's not. It's not really. And that's okay. Because remember, your goal is to lose body fat, to get leaner, to get healthier without sacrificing your performance, without sacrificing your health. The more of a deficit you create, especially as an athlete, you are leading into low energy availability territory. And when you're in low energy availability, when you have low energy availability, I should say, you're going to create a whole lot of issues for you. This is how women This is how women lose their menstrual cycle. This is how males drop their testosterone. This is how you reduce motor cognitive function, right? So your hand-eye coordination gets worse. Your performance gets worse. This is how you increase depressive symptoms. This is how you decrease recovery overall. This is how you lower bone mineral density to increase your risk of breaking bones, right? This is how you decrease your muscle mass too. So there's a whole bunch of fucking things that happen with low energy availability. And remember, energy availability is different to energy balance. Energy availability is the energy available left for bodily functions, just for overall health, after you've taken away exercise, okay? And again, the leaner you are, so your fat-free mass, basically all your tissue that's not fat, when people who are leaner have a not a high fat-free mass, it'll depend, but like, because you have less body fat overall, you're going to have a higher chance of susceptibility in order to be able to possibly be in a low energy availability. So we can do calculations to know our energy availability, and if you guys do want to know that, you have to know the amount of calories you're burning on average per session. But just for sake, if you're losing 0.5% of your body weight a week, you're not going to be in a low energy availability unless you're exercising literally 6 to 7 hours a day. Because the more you exercise and the more those calories go towards exercise, the less you have just for bodily functions, like I said. And so for those of you who are endurance runners, who are long distance things, who are fighting 3 hours a day, you're expending a huge amount of calories. All right. And again, your friends, your coaches, everyone may be trying to push you to lose weight faster, but I'm telling you guys, it is not the way to go. So when we look at losing 0.5% to 0.75% of your body weight a week, what does that look like in calorie numbers? So roughly for every 100 calories you're in a deficit, you're going to lose about 90 grams on the scale in a week. So if you're in a 100 calorie deficit a day, which is a total of 700 calorie deficit a week, you're going to lose about 90 grams. Now, being in a 100 calorie a day deficit, your body adjusts to that quite easily, and it's like not even noticeable. So that's why we never put someone in a 100 or a 200 calorie deficit. It always starts from that 300 calorie deficit mark, all right? So 100 calorie a day is 90 grams. 200 calories a day, 180 grams. 300 calories a day is 270 grams. 400 calories a day, 360 grams. 500 calories a day is 450 grams, right? And that's why we get the 3,500 calorie deficit in a week is 1 pound of fat, which is 450 grams. So basically it's just a bit of division to figure out what that would be, if that makes sense. And then if we look at 0.5% of your body weight a week, if you're creating a 200 calorie deficit a day, which is 1,400 calories deficit a week, and you're losing 180 grams, when we look at that as like a 0.5% of someone, that's someone who's like 40 kilos. So it doesn't even add up, because I'm not going to be having, no one around here really is 40 kilos. So instead, when you start from that 300 calorie range, which will end up being a 2,100 calorie deficit for the week, which will end up being a 270 gram-ish weight loss. That's when we look at people who are in those 50 kilo ranges and above. And so it actually does correlate quite well from like about 300 calories onwards as a deficit a day. And so for you, if you're 70 kilos, you need to lose 350 grams a week, well then you're going to be in about a 400-ish calorie deficit, give or take, a week. If you want to give up to that, 0.75%, you'll be in a 500 calorie deficit a day. And then we can work our way out from there. So this way you can figure out, based on how much percentage of your body weight you want to lose, again, let's say 0.5%, whether you're 70 kilos, 80 kilos, 90 kilos, you can just do the math very quickly and be able to figure out what that would be. So 90 kilos, you're going to lose about 450 to 500 grams a week, right? That's simple. That's a 500 calorie deficit a day. Boom, done. You're 80 kilos, you're going to be about 450 to 500 calorie deficit a day. Easy. And so the heavier you are, obviously the bigger the deficit you can create, because you're going to need to in order to lose that 0.5% of your body weight a week. Like for a 100 kilo person, to lose 500 grams, you're going to be at about a 600 calorie deficit a day. So it is a bit more, but also you're probably burning an excessive amount of calories. So how do we know that if we're not tracking, like how do you decide whether you're in a 600 calorie deficit a day or anything? Well, it depends on your rate of weight loss. So that first week of weight loss, once you first start your diet, you're going to lose a bunch of water weight. So don't stress about that. That's just water weight. It happens. So do not use that as like your reference, because once all that water weight is cleared, then you can actually get some accurate representations of if you're in a deficit or not, and how much of a deficit you're in. If you're like, oh yeah, I've lost like 3 kilos this week, yeah, it might be fucking water weight. You're not in a if you lose 3 kilos in a week, like you're not in a fucking huge deficit, if that makes sense. So then after that second week, you monitor what's your weight doing and how far is it going down. Because then if you're not tracking calories, all you have to do is adjust portion sizes to base that. If you're losing more than 0.5%, if you're losing more than 0.75%, you add a little bit of extra food. If you're not losing up to 0.5%, you decrease that little bit of food of portion sizes. And that's how you can do that without even tracking calories. Because again, I'm all about trying to teach people how to do this with tracking and without tracking. And that's a simple method you can implement if you're someone who wants to do it without tracking. Right? So I just wanted to give you guys just a little bit of information about how you should be going about this when you are dieting, how to not negatively decrease your performance, how to make sure you're supporting your health overall and making the good choices. And this is just going to lead to a safe, consistent, solid deficit. Cool? So, as always, if you guys have questions, send me a message on Instagram, @TysonTheTrainer with 2 R's. And until next time, my friends, speak to you then.